would you rather be? An honest person with a reputation of dishonesty, or a dishonest person with a reputation of integrity and honesty? As Christian parents, you guys want to know that your students are being taught God's value system. Today I'm going to be talking about how teachers can use their vocation to promote honesty within the classroom, whether that be public school or private school. I'm a Liberty student that is studying to become a teacher. I also volunteer at church as a Sunday school teacher, so I have some experience. Let's see. There are many ways that you can promote honesty within the public school system, because public school and private school are two different types of schools. Public school, you have to be a little bit more politically correct in the way that you teach, just because as a Christian teacher you cannot share your views about God in the classroom. So for a public school teacher, they have to try and teach God's value system in a different kind of way. One way that they can do that is by showing the proper amount of concern about that specific topic. So there's a professor that was at a public college, and he taught his students honesty by understanding his students. He had a lot of different ethnicities in his classroom, and so they all believed something different about honesty. So he had to understand what his students believed about honesty so that he can show them how they can kind of change it so that they believe what he believed. One of his students was from Asia, and they learn that they must learn in group settings. So what that means is they might ask each other, hey, what did you get for that question? And in America, that's totally not okay. So he had to teach his students that, in America, this is how we do it. And so by understanding what his students believed about that specific topic, he can address it at the beginning of his class so that he'll never have issues with it. Another way is by positive and negative reinforcement. With that, there comes a story. There's a professor by the name of Richard Rudbach. He was saying that his students didn't know at the beginning of the year that he made two types of quizzes. So he secretly made the same quiz but in different orders. His students didn't know, and his students did well. Until one day he was grading the papers, and two of the students that had done really well throughout the entire class failed. Completely failed the quizzes. And he was like, what happened? So he investigated. He found out that they had sat next to each other and they had different quizzes. So he assumed they had cheated. So he went into the class, he asked them, the students, what do you think about cheating? And they were like, not a big deal, as long as you don't get caught. So he addressed the students that had cheated. He brought up the quizzes and he showed, what do you think happened? And they were like, oh, well, they cheated. They definitely cheated. So he had all his students write a letter to the students that had cheated saying, I'm your classmate, I don't agree with what you did, this is what I think you should have for punishment. And so after he did that, he pulled the students that had cheated in, gave them the letters, so they got to read what their peers thought of it. Because cheating is actually one of, I guess you can say, peer pressure, because it's like something we do, not a big deal. So the fact that their peers didn't agree with what they did, it kind of changed the way they thought. So it was negative because who likes being called out in class? Nobody. And it was positive because they understood, hey, it was wrong. I don't need to do that ever again. So those are two different ways that in a public school setting would be the best way to, is that over? Okay. The best way to talk about honesty with your students without bringing up God per se. With a private school, it's a little different because the teachers can bring up their belief systems because the government is not paying for the schools. So the parents and the students and the teachers decide what they will teach the students. So in a private school setting, you can address that completely different. One way is by showing that God values honesty. In the textbook, it shows that God values honesty. By saying that God values honesty, as a Christian, we would like to value honesty as well. So that's one way we can show in a private school setting. Another way is, because honesty is part of the policy, we can, I guess, show them how it was founded by Scripture. One scripture for this is Proverbs 11, 1 and 2. Yeah, and that's it.
Good job. That's good.